Randy, that was just who Randy was. He was just the classic grumpy old man. It did not matter what you did, he just didn't like it. Nothing was ever good enough. You
Yeah,
sweep the floor, you did it wrong. You know,
yeah,
you put the tools away, he didn't like it. You put them in the wrong spots, even if you put them in the right spots. And
right,
some
right,
people are
yeah.
just that way, right? But at the end of the day, Randy was this awesome dude who I ended up learning a ton from, and we sort of celebrated his crankiness. Welcome back to the Real Life Podcast, episode 9, with your hosts Tyler and Paul.
I'm here.
That was smoother.
I still feel so uncomfortable.
It's weird introducing a show with
Yeah.
no like live audience. It's just two idiots with microphones.
I feel like in our last podcast though, it was more different because we had like that like music that like introduced us, and then I think we just talked, right?
Yeah, we kind of just like went right into it. This one's been a little bit different, but I know
Nice.
people are probably listening like, we don't care about the intro, but we care. We
We
care
do
about the
care.
intro. It
We
matters
do
to
care.
us.
How's your week been so far?
Oh, it's been pretty wild, very busy. It's the turning that corner into spring. Kids are going to be out of school soon, so all my buyers are going to have more available time. So it's getting kind of nuts, and just you work with a lot of different people in this industry, and I imagine your industry as well.
Yeah.
And I figured that's something that maybe we could talk about today, was just the variety of people that we encounter in our day-to-day jobs and our businesses.
Yeah.
They're I've had the privilege of working with some amazing people,
Okay.
awesome realtors, and like when you do a deal with a good agent, or and that goes for any business, you get partnered up or you work with somebody, a customer, a client, whatever, who's just awesome. Like how fun is work?
Mm.
But then sometimes you get partnered up with somebody, or you get a client, or you have to do something with a coworker that I don't know, maybe you don't necessarily see everything eye to eye. You're not always on the same page.
Yeah.
It can be
Yeah.
frustrating.
Oh, 100%. And I think in any industry, and I mean, for us, a lot of the people that we deal with are there's going to be clients, and then there's going to be, so in my world, there's clients, there's appraisers, and then there's the actual institutions where we send the mortgage. So there's, and then lawyer and realtor. So there's typically five different types of people involved in every transaction. And if you, listener, think about like five people that you talk to today, are you best buddies with all five like throughout your day job? Probably not, right? So you're going to have tons of different types of personalities that maybe you vibe with, maybe don't vibe with you. And that's the other thing is we always internally, we were like, oh man, how can that person do it this way or that way? People probably think it about us too, right? So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think processes in our industry, I think on both sides of the desk, yours and mine, process is very important. It's very critical. If you're not following a strict process or doing things the right way, it can cause massive errors that can snowball into a ton of other errors, which can just take a deal that should be smooth sailing and turn it into just a nightmare. And
yeah.
this week
Well,
too, I mean, I'm not going to get any details, but yeah, I did a deal this week with someone that I could care less if we ever did a deal together again, ever. I don't want to see this person's name ever
oh
again.
my
I
gosh.
will, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd
and
love
it all
to.
came down to that. Just
Yeah.
process driven. For me personally, I'm somebody who's very organized, neat and tidy. When I would do a contract, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, everything is done just right. And to me, that matters. It's professional, but it's also how we make sure that my clients are protected because we're putting together contracts. These are legal documents. And the other half of the transaction just was the complete opposite. Empty fields, missing things, didn't do this right, didn't do that right. And then when and I get it. Sometimes this industry, like time sensitivity is massive. And sometimes you're
Right.
writing deals on the hood of your truck and emailing them in with pictures. Like it's just rushed like that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave the guy the benefit of the doubt that, hey, it's just rushed. And then, come to learn that it wasn't necessarily that way. It was just we send here's these errors, man, found these things, got to fix these things, and then
Yeah.
smack back with some attitude about how it's not his job and this and that, and
Oh my,
and
my.
I'm not here to get into the weeds of it, but I just want to kind of paint a
Right.
little
Right.
picture for the listeners that
Yep.
sometimes these are the people we got to work with.
Yep.
right?
Well, no.
And can't just put your hands up and be like, no, man, I'm not doing it. This is the deal we're doing. We got to see it through.
Yeah, no, and I think too, in any role, I mean, I guess as sole proprietors, business owners, small business owners, you know, independent contractors, in a lot of those fields, you can pick and choose who you're going to work with. I understand in my world, if you and I are dealing with, our clients are dealing with some other on the other side of a transaction, we can't just tell our client, hey, look, I don't like that person, don't buy this house. So I understand that, but I mean,
No, sadly we can't.
if it comes to actual, like, for in my world, if there's underwriters at lenders, so let's just say there's a lender that maybe the person that works there that I have to deal with, maybe we don't get along well. I likely don't send much business there because I don't want to deal with them if I don't have to, because maybe we don't work well together. Not in a malicious way. Everyone that I work with is great, but there's going to be certain people that I work with that are very easy to work with from my perspective. And so
Yeah, that's just
obviously, yeah,
human nature,
yeah, you
right?
pick and choose where you're going to send things. But you know, there are some scenarios too where if you're looking at clients, or if you're a contractor, let's say you're a plumber and you go to a home and you're self-employed, and the person that you're quoting the job on is just rude. Well, that plumber can up and leave and just not choose to do that deal, right? Not
Yep.
do that job.
Give
So
you a massive quote and tell you it's going to cost $5,000 if you want me to
exactly.
do this $3,000 job.
So it's like, so there are ways that you can. Now, I there's a lot of our listeners that don't work for themselves, and I know that there's going to be times when they punch in the morning and they're at their office or remote, they're going to be dealing with coworkers or maybe even leaders that they can't stand, and that's a really challenging part too, right?
100%, 100%. And I guess, I mean, for us, because we do work on our own, I mean, I can pull from my past experience in my old life that I had that very same scenario where we had a leader that just oil and water, man. We just did not get along. And at the time, I had aspirations to be in that position.
Hmm.
So I guess if you're sitting here listening to this, wondering, what do I do? How can I, you know, fix this? I'll recommend you take the steps that I took. And even though, like, not do their job, don't do that. But I decided to take the high road. This, individual was a little petty sometimes and
Sure.
made comments. And from his position of leadership, it just seemed really weird for him to do that. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I could fire these right back because there's tons of material to work with. But I chose not to. I was like, you know what? I want to be the leader. I'm just going to be the leader because the whole team was on the same page as us. Like nobody liked this guy,
Right.
and the team was falling apart. Team morale was going down. Productivity was going down. Sales were going down. Everything was just going down, down, down. And I thought, hey, how can I, what better opportunity to showcase my aspirations and the skill set that I've learned for this position than to be the guy that gets this train back on the tracks, right? So
Hmm. Hmm.
I started actually working with this clown, offering to help host meetings, offering to be the guy that, did the thing like he was new to the company. So had to, help him get up to speed on stuff. So I actually went from not liking this guy, wanting to get away from him, to going out of my way to spend more time with him,
Yeah.
just to try and get the team back, to where it was. And it worked in some regard. Then I ended up, parting ways with that company in the long run anyway. But I will say, like in that moment when you've got someone like that, take the high road, right? Try to be the better person, and that's what I did too with this other um, person that I was doing this deal with this week. Was, you know what? There's a couple opportunities where the door was open to just blast this guy and tell him about all his mistakes and all the issues, and I thought, what's the point? There's
Yeah.
no purpose for that.
No, just an
So
ego
I
hit.
just, yeah, stayed
Yeah.
professional,
Yeah.
did
Well,
the right things, got the deal done.
love that. No, I think too, like I remember years back, I actually met a guy that I would say helped form my professional career, but a guy by the name of Stephen DeGroot. He's like a management consultant, and basically he he had this whole premise, and he would do a lot of talks in workplaces about like workplace, um, I guess, camaraderie and culture, workplace culture, right? And one of the
Yeah.
biggest things he talked about was he called it the $1 million question, and it was basically, what do you know about it from there perspective. And it's ingrained in my brain. $1 million question. What do you know about it from their perspective? So the second someone's being a B word to you, the second someone's being short with you, maybe on the way into work, they found out that one of their best friends passed away and now they're in a horrible mood, right? Maybe they're, maybe they're getting their wisdom teeth taken out tonight and it hurts or whatever. What do you know what from
Yeah.
there? And it kind of puts it back where you're like, man, I have no idea what this person's dealing with, why they're taking it out on me. And it kind of, if anything, I found that it's sort of like um gave me calm down my anger.
Yeah.
Basically, like even if they have no reason, so even if they're just a jerk for being a jerk, at least in your brain you're like, man, maybe they're going through something that I don't know about. I'm going to give them some grace. And so that's the biggest thing that comes across my mind all the time. Even if someone cuts you off in traffic, what do you know about it from their perspective? Like where do they have to be? So there's that. And then the second thing that I always learned, and I had another really good leader named Chris who always said, we talked about this in the last episode, but he always said, like, don't never complain down or to your colleagues. Talk to
Yeah.
your leader about it. And then the biggest thing is talk to the person. So if someone's really rubbing you the wrong way, it's not as easy as just going and like saying, hey, you're rubbing me the wrong way. But there's ways of doing it where you can be like, hey, look, like I feel like sometimes I annoy you. Is there something that I can do better with my emails? Like something like that. And then it might be like, no,
Yeah.
your emails are fine. Like whatever. Start the conversation, right?
Yeah, okay, but what happens if this person is just a jerk all the time and you know they're just being a jerk and they're not getting their wisdom teeth out or whatever and
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
they just suck. Like what happened? What
Yeah.
would you do? You go to the office and you got someone who's just a jerk all the time just to be a jerk.
Yeah, I think what I've done in the past jobs, I've worked a bunch of jobs that maybe weren't my forever jobs, and I wasn't always happy. And I met my wife, Courtney. Hopefully, she's listening because she did listen last episode because I know she brought it up one day. But basically, what Courtney kind of said with me in certain jobs in the past, she's like, treat every job and all of these sort of interactions with like your best foot forward, but basically like take like you're saying, Tyler, like the high road. Like, don't take it personally. Focus on what you're doing. I really like what you said about like kind of putting yourself in the line of fire and going and spending more time with them because sometimes maybe it's like a lack of miscommunication or perception where the other person thinks you're the jerk. And a lot of times Courtney was like, Paul, like maybe it was my mom, but she was like, Paul, like you kind of come off a certain way. And I was like, me? No. And she's like, yeah, you kind of
Yeah,
come
she's
off.
right.
Yeah. I think like 15 when I was younger, like I could come across really, maybe arrogant and whatever. And so, um, I guess if you're spending time with people that maybe you're butting heads, they might have a misconception about you and you might have one on them. And so as you spend more time together, some of that tension might also dissipate, right? But
Yeah, and it's probably worth mentioning that that guy I was talking about earlier in my old job, spending all that time together. We actually sort of ended up kind of getting along towards the end.
mm,
It didn't fix everything, but things did get better. And you know, he came around. So to
yeah.
your point, it can
Well,
have a positive effect. And like I just think you're at work, if you're not a sole proprietor, independent contractor, business owner, whatever, you're being paid to be there. And part of being paid to be there is to play nice in the sandbox.
mhm.
So if you got a coworker who's just kind of being a jerk all the time because they're just jerk, I just in my head, we had this guy named Randy at this one place that I worked at. I'm pretty sure Randy's not around anymore because he was really old at the time, and this was a long
Oh,
time ago.
okay.
But Randy was just that classic. And don't worry, this ends well. I'm not trashing Randy here. Randy, that was just who Randy was. He was just the classic grumpy old man. It did not matter what you did, he just didn't like it. Nothing was ever good enough. You
Yeah.
sweep the floor, you did it wrong.
Yeah.
You put the tools away, he didn't like it. You put them in the wrong spots, even if you put them in the right spots. And
Right,
some
right,
people are
right.
just that way, right? But at the end of the day, Randy was this awesome dude who I ended up learning a ton from. And we sort of celebrated his crankiness, like in the workplace. And I guess it depends on your personality type, but we had a group of guys that worked at this. It was a body shop. So you can just imagine like mechanics and
Oh yeah.
body shop
Culture.
kind of thing. Like there was no like suit and tie, you got to be professional, right? This year in a shop. So we ended up just celebrating the fact that he was just a cranky jerk
Yeah.
and he celebrated it. We had stickers on his toolbox. We had, like Randy's Corner, there was a sign up in the corner of the shop that just sort of says Randy's Corner,
Stay away.
Oscar the Grouch. That's who we used to use. We used to put a garbage can. We had an old crappy garbage can kicking around, and we put it in there, and we stuffed a green bag in there and drew Oscar the Grouch on it. And so, if you have that kind of humor, you can use humor to kind of lighten up the mood in the office with these kinds of people because it can be really challenging to go to work every day with, Oscar the Grouch sitting next to you, just huffing and puffing and being kind of ticked off all the time. Um, but yeah,
Well, well, yeah, I think too, it's one of those things where, as I look back, I think I always thought I was maybe you and I are also Oscar Grouch, right? Like I think in our brains we're always the right ones, we're always the perfect ones. How could so and so be such an a-hole? Blah blah blah. Why is so and so a B word?
yeah,
What?
maybe I'm the a-hole. It's
Yeah,
possible.
well, that should be the top. We should get t-shirts. Maybe I'm the a-hole. But like, but I think even in general, like, I think I've learned to maybe introspectively like look a little bit at myself. And yeah, I'm like maybe there is something that I can do that would make it easier on that person. And maybe isn't it like a Taylor Swift, like I'm the problem or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Morgan Wallen has one on the problem. Taylor Swift has one, a bunch of ones similar to her
Yeah.
being the problem. I
So
don't
I
know how
think
she could be.
yeah, well, I think too that and then again, there's gonna be people that you just don't get along with. But like you mentioned, if you're on the payroll, your job is to do your job and do it cordially and be polite. And I think what I've always done, like you mentioned, like my parents mentioned, like my wife's mentioned, like those management consultants mentioned, is you just if you kind of take the high road and you're polite and you're friendly and I think over time people can also warm up to each other. So I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing though is if there are people that you definitely butt heads with, it's gonna happen. I think the nice thing about when you're self-employed is you can just decide whether or not you're gonna stay working with those people. But I think what I've done, and even on any single call that I start, and there's times when I'm tired and I'm exhausted, and again, I talk about mortgages and interest rates 40 to 60 hours a week, right? And
Yeah.
it's not like I love mortgages and interest rates. I like helping people and I like being my own boss. But there's days when I'm tired, I'm cranky, and whatever, that I purposefully, before I click call or click Zoom, I purposely smile and I take 4 or 5 deep breaths, and I often will recite a couple things I'm grateful for, and then I have this call, and I jump on, and I um, instantly, even if the clients have put me in a tough spot where they need like a 3 hour turnaround on a normally 3 day type of thing, instead of me being grouchy and mad, my first line is, "Wow, I'm so excited you finally got the house. Let's get this done. Are you guys excited?" They tell me how excited they are. And now I've kind of bought into it. Like you tell yourself you're excited for them. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
the negative stuff's gone. I rambled, but that's how I do it, man.
Hey, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but at the same time, I totally get it and appreciate that. And I think that's something that more people should probably adopt because those little moments of gratitude throughout the day, that's something I practice as well. And it's something I try to do in the morning, like when I wake up. It's like
Hmm.
a with my coffee sort of thing. What a change! Just like reminding of yourself of how lucky we are to have these problems
Yeah.
is
Also,
is kind of crazy. And normally days where I'm grouchy or crabby, like not gonna lie, this deal from this week kind of put me in a bad funk for 24 hours. And even my wife was like, "Dad's cranky. Let's just leave him alone and let him watch his little hockey game and whatever." And I have to remind myself that like, hey, you're you're in a funk because you sold a house. Isn't that like what
yeah.
the whole thing is? Like you're trying to sell houses. They're not all going to be smooth sailing and super easy. So stop being a baby about it and just, submit it. And that's kind of the turning point from when I went to like, oh, I want to light this guy up and tell him this and that. And then I just went to like, yeah, just submit the deal and move on to the next one. And hopefully you don't run into him for a while. And if you do, hopefully he's, gotten better at his job.
Yeah, and I think people too, people like positive people. And I feel, and we talked about this in a previous episode about just how your body reacts to what your mouth says, right? And like the heart
Yeah.
responds to what the mouth says. And so, you know, I've just found that, well, whatever it is, you can't kill a bee with honey. What is it? With sugar? With
You catch more flies with honey or catch more bees with honey or something like that. It means be sweet, be nice.
Cordy just sent me a meme earlier with someone like just butchering sayings. That is me. I am the one that does that. So, but I guess what I'm getting at is if you approach it positively, it's going to work out. And again, there's going to be times when it doesn't work out. I think too, like, if I look back, I think one of the other dynamics can be like leaders, right? Like leaders that you report to. That's a challenging one where if you have a
Yeah.
leader that you really don't connect with, someone that's like in charge of your pay and your promotions, I mean,
Hmm.
what do you tell like a listener who's like, hey, like I just can't handle my boss. We do not get along. I'm starting to hate my job because of that. Like, what would you tell someone to do in that way?
Yeah, I mean, like it's a really tough spot to be in, I guess, and like that's similar to like that one where I had that guy that I ended up spending more time with. I would reiterate some of that. Is just like you say, try and figure out where they're coming from. Maybe that position of leadership is super stressful, and
Mm,
their leaders breathing down their back, so they're coming down and breathing down your back because typically like that sounds like a classic corporate environment where results are the only thing that matter and it's not a horrible idea to book some time with that person. Go for lunch. And it takes a really kind of big person to do that, to kind of park the emotions and be like, I don't like this person. Why would I go spend time with them? Maybe they don't like you either. It's
yeah,
possible. Some people are just jerks
right.
and they'll decline your lunch invite, and in which case, I mean, I guess you got to kind of just do the best you can to be that positive person. Just do your job, show up, whatever, look for a different role, look for a different department. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, I would like to think that most people are good and, you know, finding a way to get in front of this person and just say like, look, hey, notice some tension here at the office. I don't think it's productive for you or for me. Like, why don't we, is there something you want to talk about? Like, can we figure out
I don't know if I could do
what's
that,
feeding the
bro. I
issue?
don't think I could do that. I know I'm saying we should, but
No?
like I don't. Oh man, that'd be hard. That'd be so hard.
It's yeah, it's hard, and I guess I can only say that because like that's eventually what me and this other guy sort of did, and I remember exactly when it happened. Is it was not planned though. Like I didn't ask him to go for lunch and like let's talk about this. Is it was at the end of a quarter and we were setting targets for the following quarter, and we got stuck kind of like in the boardroom together, and people had to go, and before we knew it, it was just him and I, and we were in this boardroom, and it was like this big table, and we were at opposite ends of it and it was just quiet and awkward and it was like he needed my help with something because he didn't know how to get through
Right.
a part of our system or whatever, so I had to go and help him. And I remember like, and I use humor for everything, man. I'm just that person. And I helped him. He was like, hey, thanks. And I said, see, I'm not so bad. And I just kind of just threw that at him. And he says, well, I'm not that bad either. Like,
Really?
and we both sort of, yeah, we just sort of admitted like we're both kind of being jerks here. And I just said like, look, man, like it ended up, and this is why I say it didn't end up so bad with that guy, because after we had this conversation, things kind of mellowed out and, we just accepted the fact that he was the leader. But it was just when he came in, the guy that was in his role previously was just the best.
Yeah.
The best. And we couldn't have had a better leader at the time. And he moved on, and we were all bummed out. And of course, comparison is the thief of joy, as they say. And all we could do is compare this new guy to the old guy, and the new guy wasn't his fault. He wasn't up to speed. It wasn't, he was trying his best and different personality and whatever. But I mean, yeah, all it took was that simple little joke to just kind of be like, see, I'm not so bad.
Yeah, well, I
No,
think
I'm not bad either.
yeah, and I think the biggest thing is like trying to figure out what makes someone tick, right? And how they like to take in information. So the thing that grinds my gears, there's a couple things. If someone's just coming at this with like overly like emotional details, like how they think or feel, I don't care. Like
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm not a touchy-feely, lovey-dovey. It's like, what do you need?
Black and
Bulletproof.
white.
Bullet.
I'm a machine.
Let's go. Let's be efficient. Let's move on. So I think there's if you know how you are, and a buddy of mine runs a business restaurant, And when they hire, they do a lot of like personality tests too. So you get to realize what makes your employees tick, and as a leader, what makes you tick. And then you can kind of, after that first interview, you can be like, hey, look, you're whatever, which depending which inventory you do or which personality test, you can be like, it looks like you value this, this, and this. I'm this one. I value this, this, and this. And then you start to know, okay, if I'm approaching Paul, don't come at this with a long-winded emotional story. Tell Paul I want bang, 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 this, this. And so there's going to be certain situations where if you can figure out kind of what makes the other person tick, and it's not that hard. I mean, hey, there's Chat GPT or Claude or whatever you use, but like you could also ask them or just take notes on like how they are in other meetings. But the biggest thing I think is like figuring out what drives the other person, how they tick, and then maybe the way that you convey your information drives them crazy. And if you just tweak how you do it, maybe you guys would be besties, right?
Yeah, man. And there's a lot of truth to that because how and that if there is tension in an office space, that's probably what it is, right? It's just two different personalities clashing. Because I don't think anyone apart from Randy goes to work, old man Randy, goes to the office or goes to work to be a grumpy
No.
jerk, right? Everyone wants to go and have a good day and come home feeling, like they had accomplished something that day. So I think obviously, if you're running into issues with a person, then you're probably just got a bit of a personality conflict, and
Yeah.
yeah, you got to figure out how to better communicate with that person. And communication's huge. If you can just have
Oh,
that chat
yeah.
with somebody and just be
Yeah.
open about it and be like, hey, you're bugging me.
You know what I would do if I could go if I had to go back and work in an office scenario, I would if I was maybe feeling like I wasn't maybe connecting with my leader or with whoever, what I would do is I would be like, and most jobs, I think you have quarterly reviews or maybe weekly check-ins or maybe just annual check-ins, depending where you work. I don't know, but I guess small businesses, it's not as rigid. But what you could do is be like, hey, I watched this like or listen to this podcast or watch this thing about like personality test. Is there anything that I can do differently that would make your job easier or like how I send you information? And I'm really into this, would love to learn. And you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah,
might get you a raise, but B, your leader might be like, oh yeah, no, you're great at your job. Um, but uh, if you can keep the emails to bullets, that'd make me, or can you elaborate from your bullets to paragraphs? Like, I don't know. I think if you came at it with a way of like you're excited and you want to learn, that could be a good bridge to starting something, right?
yep, 100%.
Okay.
100%. And I guess that covers kind of coworkers, but then there's also I wanted to talk about clients too because there's we when you're
Hmm.
independent contractor like us,
Yeah.
we can sort of choose who you work with, and I think there's two different types of businesses, right? One business is like a B2B business where you have like a client list, right? It's
Hmm.
reoccurring revenue, reoccurring business. You're working with the same people all the time, which is what I had in my previous life. It was, here's your list of 40 clients, and God forbid you don't get along with one of them because they're your client, man, and they're your client
Hmm.
until they either stop doing business with us or they quit or you quit. So you had to get along that way, and you had to find ways of getting along. And there was definitely clients in that space that dealt with like all ages, genders, and just you know all the different demographics. And it's hard to kind of just be the person that kind of gets along with everybody. But there's also like our types of business where you have I call them like new clients all the time, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
there's a life cycle. The client comes in, and then you do the deal, and then they disappear. And I have found that it's been easier to just kind of bite my cheek on with tough clients and just let's just see the deal through. And
Right. Right.
the cool thing is, if my clients are listening, I've had very few of these, and
Yeah.
I can
Good.
honestly say that. I did fire one client, which is another opportunity we have as business owners, is we kind of get to choose who we work with, and
Right.
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Of just saying
No.
like, look, like I'm not the best fit for you, right? We're like, this is going to be bad for me. It's going to be bad for you. It's better off if you just work with this person or
Yep.
somebody else. You're
Yep.
doing everybody a favor by doing that. Um, so yeah, what's your take on new clients? Have you ever fired a client? You ever like told someone you can't work with them?
Oh man, yeah, it's and I'll echo what Tyler says, and I find that I think for me, the majority of my business comes actually more and more is coming from online. That people are just finding me off like Reddit, Google, ChatGPT, like any of the AI like search engines. Like, so I'm getting a lot of random people I don't know, but it's funny because I think when they search things, the I'm what they're looking for is what I guess what Google has said I am, right? So I think people are finding me that the value certain things. And yeah, there's been times like I mean, if I've done 700 mortgages in 8 years or 650 whatever it is, that means I talked to probably 30 times that to actually get those numbers. So let's just say like I must have talked to 10,000 people by now about mortgages. And
Jeez.
you're not going to I'll do the actual math on this, but you're not going to get along with all 10,000 people, right? And
No.
but I think early on, more or less if I get an understanding that they're just trying to use me in quotations like just to get a better rate where they are, go back to their bank and say, "Oh yeah, this broker said they could do this." I get a pretty good feeling from that up front where I can kind of keep that conversation pretty quick. Hey, you know what? Sounds like you got a great option there. I can give you a quick email with any rates you want me to quote. I think you're going to be best off staying there. Happy to help. That saves me months and hours of time. So I think
Yeah.
upfront I have a pretty good understanding, but actual personality clashes, no. There's been a few times where it's an emotional industry where things are really fast and tensions run high and stress runs high. Where there's been a couple times where people maybe, uh, you know, jump to conclusions or stress out about stuff and then they've apologized or maybe I was a little bit short back. I've apologized, but I haven't really had to say I don't want to work with you, go away before. So that's been good.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. And I think it's easier to, like I say earlier, to kind of just tough it out when you've got clients that have like a life cycle versus clients that, you sign them and they're your client for life sort of thing. I hope all my clients are clients for life and they want to buy a house every 2 years. That'd be great. But but
Yeah.
yeah, when you know that there's gonna be an end, like if you have someone who's difficult, it's a lot easier to be like, just got to see this one through, and then they'll
Yeah.
go one way and I'll go the other, and we'll
Well,
touch base once a year after that.
and I always tell people up front too. I say, look, like, and most people have already talked to another lender or whatever, or they bank somewhere. So I always start by saying, hey, before we get too far along, and I use up a lot of your time. If you do have any sort of thoughts about sticking with where you're at, meet with them first, see what kind of relationship, see what the vibe's like, and then come back to me and I'll tell you how I would do it. And if you like the way I work and the way I talk, let's work together. You might not want to work with me, and let's see how we get along. And most of the time they come back. Sometimes they just stay where they're at. I don't hear from them, but yeah, there's been very few times where where I've had to actually like just kind of like grit one out because for the most part people are good people, right? and
Yeah.
and you're not going to be buddies with everyone, but you're not wrong. There's been some realtors out there where they have really unrealistic expectations and they can be sort of flippant and rude back. That's happened very rare. There's been maybe two or three in 8 years where I've had to kind of be put my foot down, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very stubborn, not very stubborn. I'm also established in my life and in my career now and in my values and my morals where I'm not going to get stepped on, right? And so I think year 1 and year 2, you could punch me in the face over email and I would have taken it, right? Now,
Yeah.
you send me an email that pisses me off, I'm going to let you know. And I'm not going to say it in a bad way, but I'm going to let you know that I don't appreciate how you talk to me and stuff. So, I'm not going to let
Yep.
dollars get in the way of my own self-worth. So, I have had a few realtors where I've said, hey, let's talk about this, and I haven't backed down. But you got to do it with a resolution because at the end of the day, we're both trying to help the client. And what I've told the realtors in those scenarios, look, we're on the same team. We want this client to win. Both of
Yep.
us only get paid if the client wins. So we need to figure this out, the two of us, so we can help them. And it's always finished that way.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's good advice too, right? It's interesting our hearing your thoughts on it just because like our sides of the table are different in the sense of like a lot of I guess you're a lot of your clientele too, you guys are just phone calls and some Zooms, whereas my side of the deal, we're spending a lot of face-to-face, one-on-one time. I mean, just imagine like going through a house with somebody and, one like a couple, for example, and this could be a million customers because this is how people are, right? He loves it, she hates it. And,
Yeah.
they're bickering or, they all they do is complain about the market and how, these prices are insane. There's no way this house goes for that number, and then it does, and they just think that this is crazy and they blame the real estate agents and say it's all our fault. And every time we go on a showing, it's just listening to them vent for an hour about how they hate real estate agents and hate the market, and it's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
set
yeah.
up to be against. But anyways, like that kind of after like 3 or 4 or 5 meetings, showing, spending in the afternoon or the evening with people like that, you get in the truck and you're like, please buy the next one. Please buy the
Yeah.
next one. So,
Yeah, no,
um,
no, I'm with you,
yeah.
dude. And
So
and again, there's gonna be people that probably are like, "Hey, I'm sick of all like I don't want to talk to Paul anymore either." And like, we're not perfect people, but you're not wrong. Like, there are files, and in everyone's work, when you're doing a job, you're like, "Hey, you know what? I don't think we were ever gonna be best of friends, but we all worked it out, and we worked it out together." So I think the
yeah.
one other thing I would say though is just that. Oh man, it slipped my tongue. But I think the biggest thing is just realizing like. Uh, End of the day when you're laying there at bed at night and if you're wasting precious like regeneration time and health time and rest time dwelling on other people's actions does you
Yeah.
nothing and it actually can make you sick. There is
Oh,
literally
for sure.
studies about stress levels and making you sick. So the biggest thing I can say out of all this is like is just don't let it take away one blink of your sleep, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely echo that. And I always like to end on a positive note here for the day and just say again, most people are good. I love that this is very rare and this is something that we don't come across very often, but
Oh,
it's just kind of the week
dude,
today this week was kind of that way.
it reminds me of last night at Home Depot, and I've been doing like just yard work, yard work, yard work. We ripped to Home Depot, my brother-in-law yesterday, and there was
Yeah.
a guy in the parking lot that was like kind of cut someone off, and kind of just parked like a jerk, and kind of was whatever. And I was like, oh man, look at that guy. Anyways, we start walking towards the front door, and my brother-in-law asks me a question, and I guess that guy was walking right beside us, and he kind of thought we were talking to him. He turned out to be the nicest guy in the world. You know, it was just like
Isn't that funny,
in
right?
my brain, I'm like, what a dick, right? But
Yeah. Most people are good, dude. Luke Bryan's got a song called that. Most people are good.
love it.
And it's true. I think it's true. I think it's something that we got to remind ourselves of. And like you say, think about it from the other person's perspective. Where are they coming from? And just do those things, and you probably won't even notice all the jerks in your life as much.
Or maybe the jerk
But
is you, right?
or maybe the jerk is you.
All right,
we'll,
man.
we'll end the show on that note. Thanks, folks, for listening to another episode of the Real Life Podcast, and we'll catch you next Wednesday ish.
Hish. Talk soon.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.